Simple past, regular verbs. Jan cleaned all day. First, she washed dishes. Then, she dusted all the shelves. She vacuumed the carpet. She pretended to play the guitar with a broom. Finally, she rested. Do you see all of the verbs in the past? Let's look. Cleaned, washed, dusted, vacuumed, pretended, and rested. Here is the simple past verb chart. We will fill it out with the verb talk, okay? I talked, you talked, he talked, she talked, it talked, we talked, you talked, and they talked. As you can see, there is one form. They are all the same. To make the past, we just add ed. Let's look. For regular verbs, add ed to the end of the verb. For example, they washed the car last week. It rained yesterday. Laura walked on the beach. Notice the ed endings in washed, rained, and walked. For many verbs, add ed to form the past. So for many verbs, just add ed. Clean becomes cleaned. Walk becomes walked. Wait changes to waited. And look becomes looked. There are spelling changes with ed endings. For some verbs, we just add d. Bake becomes baked. Smile, smiled. For other verbs, we double the consonant and add ed. Stop gets an extra p and then the ed. Plan gets another n and then an ed. And for others, we drop the y and add ied. Carry becomes carried, and cry, we drop the y, add ied. Let's take a closer look. When the verb ends with e, add d. You don't need to add an extra ed, just d. So bake becomes baked, smile becomes smiled, add a d to move to get moved, and add just a d to dance to get danced. Double the last consonant and add ed when the verb is one syllable and ends in CVC. That's consonant, vowel, consonant. This looks complicated, but it's not that complicated. So look at the word stop. It has one syllable. That means it's short. It just has one beat. Stop. And it's got a consonant, a vowel, and a consonant at the end. We double the consonant and add ed. So stop, double the p, add ed, and we get stopped. This doesn't happen with verbs that end with w, x, y, or z. Let's look at some examples. Stopped. Let's look at some examples. So we already did stopped, and now look at plan. Plan also ends with a consonant, a vowel, and a consonant. So we add an n and then ed, planned. Hop is the same thing. I need to double the consonant and add ed, hopped. Hug also. Double the G, add ed. Hugged. And the last spelling change is drop y and add ied when verb ends with consonant and y. So carry, we drop the y, add ied, and it changes to carried. Cry, cried. Study, drop the y, add ied, studied. Worry, drop the y, add ied, worried. Simple past tells what happened in the past. Let's look at some examples. Here is our timeline. Let's say Meg visited her grandparents. When? Meg visited her grandparents yesterday. Meg visited her grandparents last week. Meg visited her grandparents last month. Meg visited her grandparents last year. This word last is a signal word for the past. We put it with another time, last week, last month, last year. Meg visited her grandparents 3 years ago. Now, this ago is the signal that tells us it happened in the past. And we can use ago with a long time, like 3 years ago, or we could say Meg visited her grandparents 3 hours ago. Ago signals that it happened in the past. Let's practice. Change the verbs to the past. You can pause the video and write them down if you want. These are all in the present right now. The research team works all day. Rob explains the diagram. They talk a lot about the problem. They change part of their plan. They decide to build a new system. Are you ready for the answers? Okay. The research team worked all day. Rob explained the diagram. They talked a lot about the problem. They changed part of their plan. They decided to build a new system. Notice that all of the verbs now end with ed. In the present, they have different endings depending on the subject, but in the past, there's just one form. Okay, one more time, put the verbs in the past. This time, these verbs are all in the simple form. They're not in the present. They all need to be in the past, but watch your spelling. Some of these have spelling changes. Maybe you want to pause the video and try to write them down. Okay, are you ready for the answers? The children listened to a story. There was a little boy. Did you remember be is irregular? Don't add ed to be. One day he carried a bowl of noodles to the kitchen table. He dropped the bowl. He cried because he wanted to eat the noodles. Then an old man appeared and I don't know the end of this story. Now you know, add ed to form the simple past for regular verbs. She cleaned, they danced yesterday, they hugged last week, he studied 2 days ago. And you know that there are some spelling changes. A lot of times we add ed, sometimes we just need the d, sometimes we double the consonant, and sometimes we drop the Y and add IED. You also know that yesterday, last, and ago are signal words for the past.